Pop Go the Wheelers. Written by Jim Nichols. Read by Rachel Nichols. Winslow Wheeler was a typical minister with the usual educational background in Bible, theology, anthropology, and homiletics. One factor that weighed heavily in his favor over the work he did was his composition skill. He wrote all his own sermons and never had to use sermons he found on the internet. That was especially refreshing to the church where he served in Texas. Their former minister had been saying things from the pulpit that just didn't seem to match his normal conversational style. So a couple of the elders ran his key phrases on an internet search engine and found the entire sermon he was preaching online, word for word. When they were asked why the former minister was asked to leave, they simply said they Googled him out of that ministry. Winslow Wheeler used his sermons to benefit his ministry in the other direction. Other ministers were Googled out for plagiarizing him. What he wrote for the pulpit oftentimes was then repeated in magazine articles or even in books. His first book was a recycling of the series he had done for their men's retreat, Manning Up for Jesus. While the sermons were well received, the book took off like a wildfire. Men's groups were started in church after church with the book as a text to help men discover their spiritual masculinity. Unlike so many other Christian books, Manning Up for Jesus brought in enough royalties that Winslow had retirement income coming in long before he needed to retire. Jessica Wheeler was Winslow's bride of 22 years, and as her husband was being called away more and more to conduct Christian manhood sessions, Jessica started getting called upon to speak to women's groups about Christian femininity. Her husband's publisher sought a companion volume to Manning Up written for Christian women, so her lectures soon became a book entitled Feminine Mystique for the Master. The two companion books were on the Christian bestseller list for over 13 weeks, and special study packets and taped lectures followed them. After all, video streamed lectures from the authors made a great companion to anyone who wants to get a study group going. Sequels! The publishers wanted sequels, since the names of Winslow and Jessica Wheeler were becoming well known. What other book ideas did they have? Well, Pastor Winslow did have a fiction series proposal about a small troop of survivalists to go through the Great Tribulation. Of course, Christians are gone at this point unless it's a post-tribulation rapture. That's it, post-trib preppers. Winslow wrote out his proposal and sent it to the publisher. Within days, he had a contact to write 6 installments of the Post-Trib Preppers series. Jessica was asked for a fiction series as well. She came up with the idea of formulaic Western pioneer romance novels. Pastel Prairies. Change the names, change the circumstances just a little, and you can write several volumes of this kind of book. Young married couple goes west. He dies from Indian attack, wagon crashing him, typhoid fever, cabin fire. She struggles to raise her baby, twins, invalid sister. Along comes a widower, lawman, trail scout, bounty hunter, who is a decent man but not a Christian yet and not ready to settle. They meet, fall in love, work through a frontier crisis, and resolve the difficulty confronting them. He becomes a Christian. Then they marry and live happily ever after. The publisher signed her up, and the first book in the Pastel Prairie series was off to print within 3 months. Winslow Wheeler had less time to devote to his ministry, but the church grew despite his neglect. Everybody wanted to attend the church where Winslow Wheeler was the minister. With additional staff, the church flourished and the Wheelers basked in the limelight of speaking engagements and book signings. Advances on their book series helped to pay for their beautiful new house. With a post-trib preppers series behind him, Winslow wondered what other book idea would sell on the Christian book circuit. As he read from the Psalms, it occurred to him that there was a type of prayer found in the Psalms people seldom prayed today. He researched it throughout the Bible and felt he was ready for his next bestseller, Calling Down Fire from Heaven, Praying Imprecatory Prayers. Naturally, the publisher snatched the idea up. It had Winslow Wheeler's name on the cover, and soon people were pre-ordering their copies and then buying up first editions so fast they sold out in less than 2 weeks. They wanted to pray down fire from heaven on their enemies, just like Elijah, or cursing the young hoodlums on their lawn in the name of the Lord so 2 she-bears could come out of the woods and maul them the way Elisha did. There is power in prayer, so pray it down on your enemies. People lined up to learn how to pray down fire from heaven. Jessica Wheeler got the idea for her next series from the man who did the custom cabinets for their new house, Jacob Hostetler. He was an Amish man who did excellent hardwood cabinetry, and Jessica started to ask him about Amish life. From that came her new fiction series, Amish Romance Stories. Her first book, Rachel's Widowhood, sold predictably well. After all, it had the name of Jessica Wheeler on it. Winslow had less time than ever to fill the pulpit in his own congregation. He did a series on imprecatory prayers as he prepared his book, and people in the church ate it up. After all, they understood they were peering into the next bestseller at the Christian bookstores, and they were hearing it all from the author himself. It was a sneak preview. When Winslow finished the sermon series, his associate took over the pulpit. Then he went on the lecture circuit and the book signings he had grown to love with the success of all his ideas. Jessica had book signings too, but they took her to different locations, and the Wheelers had about as much time together as Winslow had at his home church. Radio hosts wanted to interview Winslow about praying down fire from heaven. Government officials wanted to know if the Department of Defense could use his information on imprecatory prayers as a new weapon. If Christian circles have an equivalent of rock stars, it was the Wheelers. Every topic they wrote about became the latest buzz in church circles. Filmmakers wanted to do romance movies based on Jessica's books. The post-trib rapture preppers were likewise signed for a movie deal, going for films for all 6 volumes, provided the box office receipts kept up. As big and as nice as their house was, Winslow and Jessica spent less and less time there at home. It was one of these less frequent times when they were both home that Jessica laid it on Winslow. "I'm getting a divorce." The statement blindsided Winslow. As occupied he had been with the lecture and book signing circuit, he hadn't thought anything could possibly be wrong with people who had launched successful careers with books about Christian manhood and womanhood. He and Jessica had done almost as many appearances on the lecture circuit together as they had appeared separately. "What happened? Don't you realize what this will do to our book sales and invitations to speak?" he said. "I'm not proud of it," Jessica replied, "but it happened. I fell in love with another man." "Another man?" Winslow asked. "What could that possibly be?" "It's Jacob Hostetler. I was drawn to him as I asked him questions about the Amish way when I did research with him for my Amish romance novels. He felt the same way toward me, and he is walking away from his family and from the Amish community just for me." So the Wheelers had to face a Christian fan base which felt betrayed by the very ones who had modeled their Christian walk from all their books and lectures. Sales of their first works stopped almost entirely. Manning Up for Jesus and Feminine Mystique couldn't be bought for more than their recycling content value. Winslow's books all fell off in sales, and Christian publishers dropped all of Jessica's books. The only thing that kept any part of her writing career moving was the secular book publisher that wanted to buy her Amish romance novels. The novels never really were that Christian anyway, since they glamorized the forbidden aspects of Amish English attraction. The Park Avenue publisher signed Jessica up only upon her assurance that the next novel would reflect her personal experience of falling in love with an Amish man who was willing to leave his Amish past for her. Jessica was off and running on a new direction in her writer's career. The church where Winslow had been the pastor let him go. He had been disgraced as a respected figure in Christian publishing, and quite honestly, he had already been replaced by the staff members who covered for him all the times he was gone on the book signing engagements. It isn't all a loss for Winslow Wheeler, though. His experiences brought him to a new appreciation of the things the prophet Hosea went through when Gomer left him. When he was asked to fill the pulpit at a church, he gave a sermon from Hosea and spoke about his own abandonment by Jessica. People were so moved by his sermon that Sunday, Winslow Wheeler expanded the sermon notes and sent the proposal off to his old Christian publisher. They sent him a handsome advance on the book, and he was that quickly back in the good graces of the circle where he had been recently dismissed. Who says the church isn't that willing to forgive and forget its fallen members?